welcome to LayBin with Betfair. Joined by the A-team, we're back. Hello and welcome to another edition of LayBin with Betfair. My name's Nick Foote, your host for today. Huge weekend of racing coming up, headlined by the San Domenico Stakes at Rosehill Gardens, and we're back at the Valley in Victoria as well for Carline Stakes Day. We've got a bit of a change-up on the panel today. We've got Liam Clancey here, the equine genius, replacing the great Tom Haylock. Welcome along, mate.
Thanks, Footy. Pleasure to be back. Yes, Tommy off gallivanting in Europe at the moment, getting probably one of the best horses in the world, Paddington, beat. But he's enjoying himself, so I get to sit here with you blokes.
That's good, mate. And there's been a lot of noise on Twitter wanting Clancey, the equine genius, to come back, and we've answered the calls, and you're here. So hopefully a good one today. And Reece Goodwin, Prince of Pakenham, mate, welcome back.
Thank you, mate. Great to be back once again. Yeah, Tom's off living the best life. It's good to see that we get stuck into a brand new season and he just goes off globe trotting.
It's an extraordinary time in racing to go on. Like if you're involved in racing in Victoria, it's an extraordinary time to go on holiday.
It just goes to show how well he's going, though.
He's
he's got big pockets on him. But anyway, yeah, great to be back. I was very poor last week, so looking to bounce back and redeem myself.
How were the results last week overall?
I think you got to register on the board to get a result, which I didn't.
Okay.
Strike rate's dead set 0. But your week was pretty good.
We might have found a couple. Not too sure. We'll might get the graphic up and just see the current units tally. Anyway, it's if anything, racing can level you pretty quickly. Boys, let's head to the LayBin now, one of the favourite segments on the show. And Clance, you're going to come in pretty hot with the LayBin, I reckon. First up here, mate. You've probably got a lot to discuss, a lot to get off your chest. What have you got?
If this had been Monday, I would have come in hot, but there's been plenty said during the week about goal line errors and the lack of reviews, so I'll skip over that pretty quickly and just say, obviously, the Crows would have won the flag this year had that not happened. But we'll push on. The other one I'll touch on is Adam Simpson, right? Like, your supporters have gone through hell this year. All you got to do is play reasonably well against the Dogs, but not win. And then you get to farewell your Shoeys, your Hearns and your Nick Nats against the Crows this week at home. And then you've got Harley Reid, this possible generational superstar, and that's all you got to do. And they decide that they're going to give their unbelievable performance at Marvel Stadium in front of 24,000 spectators, none of which are theirs. And now that they're done, they've given away the number one pick. So that's my LayBin for the week. I'd be disappointed if I was an Eagles fan.
Just when you thought Adam couldn't get it any more wrong.
I know.
And he has.
And you just ticked that one off.
Reece, did you want to challenge the integrity of the competition in any way, shape or form?
Absolutely not. No, I'm very happy with how the AFL is standing at the moment.
Very good.
No, look, I got just a little LayBin. It's a personal one, just getting rolled by 100-1 pop at BNSL the other day. That was had a favourite that has had now 12 starts for a number of placings, parked outside the leader, which was 120-1, and thought, oh, well, we got that one covered, and sure enough, it gave a good kick into the straight. We dead set being rolled by 100-1 pop. Wasn't a great feeling, so there's my little LayBin for the week.
That's fair enough. I looked back through the form. I was working that meet, and I looked back through, and that thing was beaten a combined 40 lengths over the last 4 starts.
I hadn't looked that far into it, so that makes me feel even better.
When we refer to they're not machines or they're not robots, you can certainly mount a case
so
in
you
this.
didn't tip it?
No, didn't get in my top 4 that day.
And there was 3 runners.
Yeah. My LayBin this week, boys, is clickbait, gone too far. So it's now just a competition, basically. So it's who can make the most outrageous statement to just get people talking and direct people to their platform. And I feel like this has been socialised and it's been there for a while, but it's now just creeping into racing and really starting to take over racing, and it's getting on my nerves. And I understand the premise, this is how you sell paper, this is how you sell, but it's all just about impressions and clicks now. And some of the comments I've seen around racing this week, like Nature Strip not deserving a spot, in the Everest, Amelia's Jewel's done nothing. Get in the bin. Like, these are the most outrageous statements. I don't even think the people saying them believe them, which is what frustrates me the most. I'm all for big calls. I'm all for opinions, but at least believe what you're saying. So that's my little clip and my LayBin for today, fellas.
Little clip.
It is frustrating when that happens, though, because they don't get held to account for it later down the path.
Yeah.
Like, you look at the journalists such as, your Kane Corns of the world, couple of years ago, he'd stand by it and he'd go, I got it wrong. Doesn't happen anymore.
No,
Everyone just does nothing. They don't own it.
Forgotten about.
And they just move on and wait for the next one.
Yep, no, well done. I like that double down from Clance too. Makes me feel a bit better about myself. Boys, let's get into the racing now. We've got a ripping meet, a really competitive meet at the Valley for Carline Stakes Day. We're a bit blessed last week. There's a lot of Group racing, Group 1 racing. We've sort of got to take a little backward step, but there's still plenty of winners to be found. We are back at the Valley. The rail's out 4 metres the entire circuit. Now, last time the rail was out 5 metres, 2 meets back, it was an absolute monorail and come under fire. Clance, how do you see the track playing this weekend?
Well, even I think last race at the last meeting at the Valley, they sort of wanted, it was back in the true position, and they sort of wanted to get those 4-5 lanes out. So, I mean, you'd have to expect that it's going to be favouring the on-pace runners again this week, something we'll obviously monitor the first few races, but that's how I've done the form for early in the meet anyway.
Yeah, perfect. Well, let's kick it off in race number 6. It's a race for the 3-year-old fillies, set weights and penalties over 1,200 metres. The speed map here, Eye for Media looks the likely leader in the race from Antics, who'll be kicking up from 1. Aprilia and Oz Empress will be pushing across from the wide draws, I reckon, and Ben Mellum should probably find a really nice spot for the race favourite Inhibitions. Is that how you've sort of mapped it, Clance?
Yeah, should be 1 out, 1 back with any luck from there. And what I love about this horse is it's my selection for the race, is that it's had that run under the belt and it didn't have to do too much there. It sort of got held in that pocket, and then finished off really nicely. It's almost like a slightly aggressive barrier trial, right? So it comes here, 14 horses in the race, 12 of them are first up. A couple have trialled nicely, absolutely, but they don't have that race day experience under the belt, so I'm pretty keen Inhibitions runs really well, runs a great race. If I was going to find any of the ones that are first up, there's one for Stokesy with Williams on board, Beauty Rising, who little bit of a hidden trial, just hit the line really nicely, professional filly, settles really nice, and then finishes off the race well. So they'd be the 2 I'll play in the race, but Inhibition's number 1.
I heard Philip Stokes talking about Beauty Rising today on Melbourne radio and just sort of said he wasn't overly impressed with the trials, like had to work a bit and got a little bit hot, but filled with talent and talented enough to win the race. So it's a really interesting point that you make there about the 2 runners you've got. Reece, what about yourself?
Yeah, no, I'm keen on Inhibitions too. I was sort of gone searching for what looks the map horse of the race, and Clancy makes a great point that she has had the run in Sydney, and she was probably unlucky, really. She was sort of bottled away and didn't get a lot of room late. And then she's also had a tick over jump out, a trial since in Sydney, and she travels down here. I think the team's pinpointed this race to help project her into something else, and it looks a real winnable race from the draw. And there's already been really solid market support for, I think I saw 480 last night, and she's already into about 380. So you always like to see that early. Ben Mellum, great rider, should get in the A1 spot. And I thought, I was pretty keen on her. Just to touch on Beauty Rising, she's a filly I've always liked because she's at Pakenham. I've seen her, lovely style of filly, big white face on her. Her bad habit, her first prep was missing the start. She should have finished a lot closer in some really good races if she was putting herself into the race. So what we have seen from the jump outs is she's actually beginning well. She might not be trialling as good as they'd like, but she's actually going to put herself into a better spot this time. So be interested to see where they land from gate 8. Obviously, good jockey aboard, Craig Williams. So she's a filly for me that I'd like to watch going forward. So Inhibitions for me, pretty confident there. I think she's going to get the A1 run, and I think she's going to be hard to beat.
I certainly can't argue around Inhibitions being a really tough runner to beat in this race, but just with that support and at that price, I'm just going to play around at a couple of value. My main play is going to be number 6, Eye for Media. She's not the biggest filly. She does look quite athletic. She may actually zip around the Valley nicely. She ran 3rd in a recent 800-metre trial, crossing the line on the heels of I Am Unstoppable and Charm Stone. She bypassed the Quisette last week. Lob's here. It looks much easier, and she's going to be the likely leader in the race at the Valley, which is where you want to be, and you're getting double-figure odds about Eye for Media. The other one I just want to monitor, and I might make a bet if the track's playing really fair, and that's number 7, Right to Party. So over 60 days since last start, will carry plenty of residual fitness from a successful trip up to Queensland, where she was able to tick the maiden off, then go on to run 2nd at listed level to Zuckerette at Eagle Farm, and that was on top of the ground. Yeah, if they're running on, she's the one that I'll spec at a price. She can certainly reel off a big late section or run the overall fastest last 600 of the entire meeting last start in that listed race at Eagle Farm. So not sure if the Valley's her go, but we'll monitor there and be flexible with our betting. Race number 7, fellas, it's a quality handicap over the Cox Plate distance of 2040, time honoured. Speed map here, Irish Flame, Maserati Bay, Interpretation, I think still in the race, yes, and Normandy Bridge from the paint. They look the likely runners that will settle in the first four. Clance, how are you seeing this one?
Yeah, look, I think it's a battle of two for mine. Braden Starr, just one of those professional horses that does everything right. Doesn't really make any errors. The ratings are the same every single time that this horse goes out there. So it's going to be big. You'd imagine just too far back for the Valley to really step in at the price. That's why I've landed on Future History. So third start in Australia. Myron Eustace up to 2000 or 2040 today. Does a lot of things right and ticks a lot of boxes and has had a tick over trial since that last performance. So a horse that goes through the line really nicely, but with this one I'm expecting to sit a little bit closer today. So makes its own luck there. Braden Starr, the one that will be coming home strong, and if they don't extend the margin around about the school, Braden Starr can sit close enough to go past them. But Future History is the one that I want to be finding around that 5.50 mark.
I'm staying out of this race. I've found it pretty tricky. Mars got 4 runners, so good luck with that. Obviously, hopefully for Clancy, Future History is the one. But yeah, look, I was happy to stay away. Interpretation was massive first up on that day where you wanted to be closer to the speed and nearer to the fence, which he eventually did get back to the fence. He was savaging the line. He's had a tick over jump out in between. He's a horse I probably want to see how he goes again. Might have just been a good first up run. I think he's a horse that's got some talent. And he's the horse I want to watch and follow out of the race. But yeah, picking a winner out of this race, it wasn't really my cup of tea. So happy to just watch this one.
Yeah, certainly. I'm playing around Braden Starr as well. I'm not quite prepared to lay Braden Starr in this race. And you mentioned about the ratings and the consistency. Like, I think there are a few things against being at the Valley, the map. Daniel Moore goes on for the first ride, losing Ollie. Like, that's significant for me. But I'm still not quite prepared to put my money where my mouth is there. I will, however, play number 5, Maserati Bay, at an each-way prospect. Just first up this preparation back in May. I marked him as one to follow. However, the prep hasn't really panned out the way they would have liked, putting in a couple of poor ones. More like a Datsun Bay in a couple of those Flemington boys. Last start this track and trip was 2 weeks ago, and the race shape was against. So got caught flat-footed in a sit sprint. They went really slow to the 600. Then missed that wave of runners that you need to be in at the Valley when they get going. Just posted back on the fence. So was able to pick up, get out, run the second fastest last 200 of the race, and that was the race that was won by Floating Artist. The jockey booking of Celine Gaudray dropping to 52.5 kilos signals intent for me that they're going to lead with this horse. So I think you can get back into the winner's stall at a price. So you're looking around sort of $15 for Maserati Bay, and I think is a good each way bet in the 7th at the Valley.
So yeah, Maserati, what happened was 2 starts back, he was actually in a really fast run race and rated right down, couldn't finish off well. But then the last start at the Valley, slowly run race, went through the line really nicely. And that's sort of how this race sets up Irish Flame to go across the front again. And then finished just on my selection once more. And Future History, if you look back to France, where he was before, there's a Group 3 where he just rated absolutely through the roof, more than Braden Starr's had this whole prep. So that's the upside, that's the ceiling, and that's what we're banking on for Saturday.
I love it. And when Clance is here, just bring in the French form to lay back. You can't argue with it. No. You know the French form?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Okay. Hey, let's head to the listed Carline Stakes now. The feature on the card, race number 8. Bella Nipotina won the race last year. It was a big day for Mar Eustace last year, 5 Metro winners on this day. So interesting if they can repeat the dose again, a few key runners engaged. Speed map, hot tempo here, boys. Snapper from 1 looks a likely leader, is an absolute Valley specialist. Generation, Acromantula, Sweet Ride, Omni Man and Hypothetical are the other key influences in the race. How hot's it going to be up top?
Geez, isn't this a fascinating race? I mean, when I first did this form, Midwest was still in the race too, so
right,
Midwest was
from
going to be outside of all.
Yeah. That's got the best gate speed out of the lot of
them. And so obviously straight up I was like, all right, let's find something to come over the top of them. Which led me to have, Express Pass, which is jumped out quite well, really good first up record. Was lame last prep, but looks to have come back much better here. So that's a swooper. And you got Ashford Street, who actually was fantastic last start against a lot of these horses. The the Acromantulas, the Omni-Mans, and the Sweet Ride as well, and is the one that's going to be sitting behind them and finishing off strong. So they're the ones I led to early. Midwest comes out of the race, and all of a sudden it's a lot more tactical. And who decides to go forward? I mean, your Acromantula gets a 3.5 kilo swing on most of these, and most importantly, Omni-Man. So that gives him much more of an opportunity than I thought he otherwise would have. Omni-Man has that tactical nous where can go forward, can sit one off him, and finish quite strongly. Hypothetical, incredibly good jump out, and actually has some ratings to go with him here. Had have drawn inside Acromantula or Omni-Man, a bit more of a chance. The barrier 5 is probably going to make it really difficult for that horse. So as I said, plenty of angles for this. I think Generation's much under the odds now into that $4 mark. I've got marked $8.50. So I'll be happy to lay at that current price and then see how we go later on.
Where's that money come from for Generation? It's obviously not any of ours here, but that was...
Something we don't know.
Yeah, that is halved in the last sort of...
Yeah, and exactly right. So last night, $7.58.
Yeah.
You know, now your $4 mark. I can't see...
From 10.
Can't see him starting that short. He'll have to take the break. And there's just some really strong horses up the front that to run past is going to have to be better than I think it's going at the moment. So I'm going to be taking Ashford Street and Express Pass both at $20 plus, hoping they run over the top, but in a really tactical, difficult race where I'll be taking plenty in the quad.
Yeah, look, a lot of these, most of these in the market all come through that race at the Valley a couple of weeks ago, and it's officially rated a soft 5, the track for that race, but there was quite a fair bit of rain that fell right before that last race, and I think the track was worse than that, and I think it fell into the hands of Sweet Ride. Ashford Street, I do concede, was very good, but all his best form is on wet tracks, and I think we're probably going to have a firmer deck on the weekend. So I'm going with Omni-Man, and I think if he actually had a couple more things go his way a couple of weeks ago, he probably still wins the race regardless. His best form's on top of the ground. He's drawn 2. I think he'll either be outside snapper, otherwise he gives up to something that might be come across. He's like box seat, and he's just got to rely on a little bit of luck. So I was pretty keen to be with him. There is that weight swing, but yeah, I thought he was great. His first run in Melbourne, I think he's better on top of the ground. I think he's going to have a great run, and he's just going to rely on a little bit of luck on the corner to come out, and I think he'll be too good for these.
Well, just to throw in another curveball, I'm going to go something completely different. I've put the Perth Raider number 7, Acromantula, on top for Team Pearce. Through the same benchmark 100 race that was won by Sweet Riders, you've both prefaced, gets a 5 kilo weight swing on him, 3.5 kilo weight swing on the Market Danger Omni-Man, has outstanding gate speed. I think he'll sit outside snapper, be better second up, and can bounce off that great first up performance. So I think Acromantula around 4.50 is a really good bet. But
you got to like the third to Amelia's Jewel last prep.
Yeah,
that's pretty good form.
Amelia's
Something
Jewel's
like
good form. We
Done
heard that.
nothing though,
We heard that in the LayBin. Yeah, we heard that in the LayBin. Well, best of luck, guys. I think one of us will get on the
Surely.
board in the listed car line on the weekend.
Watch
for the
Generation.
1,000.
Yeah.
The 1,000 metre.
The money was right. Smarter than the market, eh?
That's worst way home, isn't it? Yeah. Hey, let's head to race number 9 now, which is a benchmark 100 over 1,400 metres. Speed map here. Deny Knowledge looks to have paced across Arran Bay and Regards Marie. If they like. French Emperor, who's been ridden at all ends this preparation, likely pushes forward. The favourite St Lawrence likely finds a nice trail 3 back. Carleen will be trying to keep him off the fence, I'd imagine. Is that sort of how you're summing up the map of this race, Clance?
Yeah, I think St Lawrence is just so consistent. Like, it's got that residual fitness that some of these, and especially the front runner Deny Knowledge, doesn't have. It's also gone back and had a recent jump out as well, just to make sure it's still ticking over. Sits handy, Moonee Valley, probably not superb for it, but I think it's still probably good enough to overcome that. You Deny Knowledge, obviously last week, pretty popular horse, was backed in both the Group 1, or the Group 2 PB Lawrence, and then the final race on the card as well. Came out late. It's just going so well. It's like her jump out, just carries the head carriage so nicely, just looks to go through the line. That the final race last prep at Geelong produced one of the great ratings of actually the season. Obviously that's over 2,200. We're back to 1,500 today, but it's just going to lob in front, and it's a really good scenario for her. French Emperor is the one that interests me. I'm going to have a really good look there. He was just way too keen the last 2 starts when they tried to make him take a sit. Jamie Carr goes on today. I think that's a huge upgrade. I think if anyone's going to get this horse to settle, it'll be her. So at the $10 mark, I'm pretty interested to have a little unit there. We might see that later on in the show. And then Deny Knowledge just maps to the front and away we go. St. Lawrence, obviously really difficult, really hard to beat, but the even money, happy to shoulder arms there.
Yeah, look, I'm really keen Deny Knowledge for a top 3. I think she'll be very stiff not to miss here. That Billy Pin takes the full claim, so she gets in with 52.5. She's going to find the top. Mick's going to make sure that they make this a proper 1,500. Like, she's obviously a fit mare that's going to be better suited over a trip. So I think they'll ramp this up a fair way out and make it a test, and it'll probably bring a couple of these undone. St. Lawrence, you just can't knock him at all. I mean, he's won 6 from 7. He's a real winner and gets in light at the weights too. But I think just at an each-way point of view, you can't lose on Deny Knowledge. I'm happy to get beat by St. Lawrence, but I think considering we were at Moonee Valley on top of the speed, the jump out was terrific a couple of weeks ago, and with 52.5 on her back, she's going to be very hard to run down. So pretty keen to be with her on an each-way basis.
Yeah, well, I'm joining the party with Deny Knowledge, and you both referenced like the last rating over the 2100 and first up last preparation as well. It's important to add that only missed to Savannah Cloud at Geelong over 1,500 metres and will be ridden more positively in this race. So that was a good figure first up last time, and only just given how the race panned out was flashing late, arguably could have won. So I'm not too concerned about the 1,500 metres. She was scratched last week, which was due to a skin allergy.
Skin irritation.
Yeah.
Interesting one.
Sort of shampoo you're running out there.
Well, I got a feeling Mick can clip his horses throughout the winter,
Yep.
And those sort of things can arise from that, and they can arise very quickly too. So it could have been something that's just popped up overnight, simple as a couple of boils across her back, and if the vet wasn't happy with it, or they were struggling to get a saddle on her because she came out pretty late, didn't she? So yeah, look, these things happen, but obviously they've been happy with her during the week. They would have treated her for it, and she's just fresher again for the week in between. So that's probably why they're happy to run over 1,500.
And although scratched on race day morning, the fact that they were choosing the Group 2 over the benchmark race later in the day, that fills me with a little bit of confidence. So I'm keen Deny Knowledge to win. I'm also going to save my stake St. Lawrence, who's just hardly put a foot wrong. Drops 8 kilos off last start at Caulfield, where they won in 78 grade. Carleen Heffel has a good relationship with the horse. Looks very hard to beat on face value. So Deny Knowledge, best result, best way home. St. Lawrence saving there in the 9th at the Valley. Boys, before we head to Rosehill Gardens, we've got to get through these award-winning new segments here on Layback with Betfair. And the first one is What Caught My Eye. And I believe, Clance, you're taking the reins this week.
Yeah, and I'm glad you say it is award-winning, because you would be the one with the medal around your neck this week.
Oh, no.
Very good.
In a profession that we're just trying to get more and more umpires through the door, from grassroots level all the way to the top. And now we are at the top with this man right here. We've got a number one fan sitting on the boundary just trying to get some attention from his favourite umpire. And you've completely brushed the poor bloke, run straight past him and said, you just see yourself out, pal. I've got a job to do down here.
Definitely. Half time. So very, very focused at the
bloke
time.
next to him had a smile on his face looking at him. Nick didn't even give him a look.
He was waving to the third tier, the bloke next to
In
him.
fairness to me, that second quarter of that game was one of the hardest quarters ever. We had jumpers getting ripped off everywhere. We had all sorts of things going on. I was like, get me a Powerade.
So you're telling me you were happy with your decision?
No, I'm just saying I might not have caught him, or maybe I did. I was just straight into the room. But, very good pick-up, Clance. I'll cop that one right between the eyes. We will move on now to our Trainer of the Week. It's a segment purely designed for Reece Goodwin because he doesn't really bring that much to the show, so we've built a segment around him. So, Trainer of the Week this week, Prince of Pakenham. Who is it?
It's going to be Shane Nichols with the mare BR Bay, who won on the weekend just gone. 8th run for the prep, and she's winning a Saturday race. I think it's a huge effort for any trainer. I think if you went through the stats of horses that have had 8 runs for the prep, winning a race on a Saturday in town, particularly in Melbourne where it's not easy to win a race at all, I think that's a huge credit to their team. She was an $8,000 purchase online. I can't tell exactly, I haven't done enough homework to see how much she's won since she's joined Shane Nichols' team, but they've done a terrific job with keeping not only a mare, which is hard to keep going, but a tried mare as well. They've done a terrific job, and it was great to see her finally get a city win on the board on the weekend. That was a great training effort.
No, that's a ripper, no doubt, and she did feature in the Take On Me segment last week as well. And if you wanted,
she's getting a good run on the show.
Well, if you wanted to hop on the show and take on our resident Jackson, if you want to take him on, you could have, and you could have won some cash. So there is money to be made here on layback, whether it's in our favour or against. Boys, we will head to Rosehill Gardens now. We got a couple of races to cover up there for San Domenico Stakes Day. A couple of nice 3-year-olds going around in a couple of features here. We'll talk about the track first, Clance. Rails +6 from the 1500 to the winning post, then +4 the remainder. What does that mean?
Yeah, it's going to be a good 4, soft 5 range. It's still going to, like that Rosehill track, it will still favour those on pace. But it's been pretty fair besides that one meeting about a month ago that was rails hot. I think it should still play pretty fair, but, you'd want to be on pace as per usual at Rosehill.
Yeah, nice. And we'll start off in race number 7, which is the Group 3 up-and-coming stakes. The 3-year-olds, handicap conditions, over 1,300 metres. Kaboo won it last year for Waterhouse and Bott, running away from them through the line. Huge win. Speed map here, boys. Marnway, the son of Kemi, son of the great Kementari, and Les Vampire look to be the clear leaders in the race. I think they'll set up a reasonable tempo.
I'm not so sure. I think they're probably the only 2 leaders. And I think if they're smart between the 2 of them, they might just be able to back that tempo off.
Shouldn't be cutting throats.
Yeah, correct. And it's a really reasonable run into that first turn from the 1,300 at Rosehill. You've got about 300 metres before you get there. So I'm glad you said Les Vampire because I was going Les Vampires. So,
the vampires.
But speaking of that horse, it's going really well. And I think between the 2 of them, if they back it off reasonably, that's going to be really, that horse, Les Vampires, will be really difficult to beat. Bit short for my liking in a race like this where they're all progressing at their own rates. Cabalas is the horse that is obviously going to be really well fancied after the horse that it just beat. Estriella ran so well last week. J-Mac on board, I think it's a fair favourite in the race. The one that I'm really keen to spec here at a bit of odds, about 20 to 1 mark, is Portelli's horse in Cap. Brady Preble on board has been back twice starts this prep, but has hit the line in an amazing fashion. I'm not sure if we'll get the replay up, but it's one that you'd love to have a look at. It ran behind Les Vampires last start, and I think sits a lot closer this start and just runs off him, gets up to the 1,300, better than the 1,200 last start. And I think it's going to be really, really difficult to hold off at a big price. Love to see it run into a drum, but I think it's half a chance to win the race.
Yeah, nice value. Like you're looking at $14-15 with the Corpse at the moment on Thursday. So a little bit of value for the equine genius in the first one here. You got a little bit of each way value too for us, Reece?
Yeah, definitely going some value in this race. I think it's fairly open, and there's a lot of these horses that you're probably not going to be surprised if they win. I've been a Tom Kitten fan, and I like that he's had 2 trials for this, and they kick off over 1,300. He's a horse that's won up to a mile. Nash has got a really good affinity with him too, but his latest trial is a trial you have to watch. You can't just see the results. He's ran 6 of 9, beaten nearly 4 lengths, but he was dead set a mile off them. Even Nash was still swinging off him. He was almost unlucky in a jump out. He was clipping heels around the corner, and he got out late, and he found the line really nicely behind King Colorado, who ran really well with no luck in the Wink State. So I think there might be a little bit of intent with the 2 trials, kicking off 1,300. As I said, Nash, great rider for him. He's got along with him really well. And I just hope they're not too far away from gate 3. Otherwise, he's going to be at the back completely cluttered up, and that's not going to suit. So I just hope with the 2 trials under his belt, they're somewhat positive. Maybe even 3 back would be okay. And I think at an each way value in a pretty competitive race, I'm happy to side with him.
Yeah, nice. Well, I'm going pretty straight bat here, lads. I'm with the 11, Les Vampire. I just think this is the company they expected this Piero colt to be running in. So on debut, did a lot wrong. I think SP to $1.50, $1.55. Jumped awkwardly, hung around the bend, finishing 3rd, was just really well supported, was a horror show for punters. Then went to Warwick Farm over 1,200 and put it together. Jumped well from a wide draw, led all the way. Still managed to reel off the second fastest last 200 of the race and strong through the line. 1,300 metres certainly no issue. Tim Clark goes on, one of the best front running jockeys in the business. The clock in that bloke's head for this is just perfect. So I think, you've got Cabalas, who's being sort of into sort of 320 now. Les Vampire is getting out towards 4. I have them closer together, and I think Les Vampire is a good bet in the Group 3 up-and-coming stakes.
One for the quaddie as well before we go.
Oh.
Number 12, Hasty Honey, 100 to 1. One start, reasonable rating out of the race, but if you watch its 2 trials since it's come back, running through the line really nicely, going to the back, and just a few hidden ones. So at 100 to 1, throw it in the first leg.
Well, Reece certainly won't be shouldering arms to a 100 to 1 shot 2 times in a week, I'm very sure. So,
I'd be wrapped if I had a runner in this race.
yeah, true.
Or the favourite.
Yeah, I'd definitely just go around. Race number 8, the feature on the card, the Group 3 San Domenico Stakes. It's for the 3-year-olds, set weights and penalties, 1,100 metres. Sweet Ride won the race last year at a price, $34 for Annabelle and Chad. Look, some nice 3-year-olds going around here again, worth 250k the race. Stack of first up runners engaged who are kicking off their 3-year-old season. Corniche for Team Godolphin, the $3 million brother to Sunlight, Kadinsky Abstract, the Kindergarten Stakes winner Liberated. They're all runners in single figures that present as exciting 3-year-old prospects. How much they've furnished, and this is why I might get from you a little bit later, Reece, is it's always hard to quantify with the early season 3-year-old races. How forward they'll be first up in to factor as well is really hard to judge. The exposed form, I guess, sees the 2 runner-ups from the Rosebud, presents second up here, the Instructor, who's the race favourite introducing, both from Waterhouse Boatyard. We know they're going to be fit. They're going to be the speed influencers. Look, I'm going to stay out. It's a complete sit and watch race for me. I'm really interested to see how you guys see it. Do you want to maybe just talk about 2-year-olds to 3-year-olds, what to look for?
Yeah, there can be a lot of change. There's a lot of horses that are just 2-year-olds. They're fast and they're forward going, and then they don't grow a lot into their 3-year-old season, and the others catch up all of a sudden. So this is where trials become really important. You know, you probably get to see in their trials whether they've come back well, if they're just still speedy squibs, or it looks like there's a bit of substance there. And this generally, a race like this probably sorts that out very quickly. There'll be horses here that are probably going to be in the market that'll probably get sorted out pretty quick, and they're not going to be up to the grade. But then there's going to be some other horses that probably weren't ready to go to the races or weren't anywhere near their best that are probably going to improve, and there might be something here at a price that jumps out of the ground, and all of a sudden you're talking about this horse being, you know, maybe one of the number 1 3-year-olds. So it's an intriguing race, and it's an intriguing step between the 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds. So it's probably a hard race to sort out, but I'm gonna go with Kaminsky Abstract. Absolutely love the first start win. Comeback looks really good in his trials. Interesting, he's had the 1 trial, but it was a decent, like they let him, he sat right behind the leads and they let him really extend, and James rode him there. Obviously James sticking with him is a pretty good get as well. I'm not sure, I like that James is riding 55. I don't know what he's been riding the last few weeks. I'd have to go back and have a look at this, but 55 is pretty light for him. I know he can eventually get down to 54. He's got 2 rides at 55 on the day, and they're both well in contention. So I think that's a little bit of a push. But gee, looks an exciting horse. The draw probably is a little bit tricky, but with a number of Gay Waterhouse runners in this race, you're probably expecting a fair bit of speed, and hopefully they overdo it, and he's certainly a horse. I just like to, I think from a trainer's point of view, that Chris is going to want to keep this horse's record in pretty good tack, being related to Sunlight. So I think he's going to be fairly forward. Obviously there's going to be a few lengths there still up his sleeve, but I think he's going to be fairly forward, and I think at a price of $5.50, pretty interested in going each way. If he was maybe $3, I'd be a bit more careful, but a really intriguing race and keen to see what happens.
It's a fascinating one. I agree. Really difficult. I think the 2 different horses that you spoke about there, you've got the speed influencers, like introducing the Instructor. They've already had their starts, right? They're up and running. And the 1100 at Rosehill, it's the fastest dash to the corner, and then it's a really tight turn. Yeah. So you want to be in those first couple, you want to be on the rail. The problem is the ones that look to have furnished extremely well from their 2-year-old season, they're the ones that are going to be getting back.
Yeah.
Right? I've landed with Corniche just on top because its trial was really, really nice. But you've got the General Salutes, which is, a 30 to 1 shot. It's got some really nice ratings. It went through its trials really well as well. His trials, sorry. Kandinsky Abstract and Libertad, they're the 2 that I want to be taking out of the race. but they're just mapped so poorly.
Yeah.
Barrier 10, barrier 11, they're going to be back in the field. They're going to be coming home strong.
They're really going to have to overcook it early, aren't they? Which
Exactly.
is somewhat of a chance, but you think these jockeys of this calibre probably won't overdo
That's
it.
the thing. You've got Clark and Hieronymus, probably two of the best front-running jocks in the country.
They should work it out.
They're going to be smart enough to not overcook it. So
Particularly on stablemates.
yeah,
That won't end up well.
That's very true.
That's a good point.
So it's a no bet race for me, but Corniche is just slightly on top.
I saw that trial. He trialled better than, what's the name? Annabelle.
Libertad.
Yeah, I thought probably on form, Libertad you'd like, but then watching the trial, I thought Corniche certainly worked better.
This is frustrating for me because off the ratings, you've got Libertad quite a fair bit ahead of Corniche and actually a bet.
Yeah.
And you look at that trial, Libertad comes up to Corniche and looks like it's going to breeze past. Corniche has one look and goes, I've got heaps left, and goes away from them. So you'd suggest that Corniche is going a little bit better at the moment, but how they furnish from here, you just don't really know.
It's outstanding discussion, and if I'm honest, I'm less sure after the discussion than I was prior to it. But it is
If
good
that was
insight.
possible.
Yeah, and if there's viewers, listeners out there that are keen on some of these, hopefully you've tipped them into with some of that
Is there
insight.
one we haven't mentioned?
Nah, terrific. And I think the overall thing from this is we're just going to learn so much going forward about this crop, aren't we? And who are going to be the ones to watch. Excellent. Let's head to race 9 now, which is a benchmark 100 over 1,400 metres. Just looking at this, Clance, there looks to be a fair bit of speed drawn out wide here in terms of Frenelli, Ascension, Glint of Silver. Colino backs up after being supported heavily in betting last week in the Show County. How are you unpacking this one?
Stacks of pace, yeah. And to add to those ones coming from out wide, you've also got Mission Phoenix and Ashman who really only know one way from barriers 4 and 5. So they'll go forward too. It's a really good race and one that I'm hoping there's a couple of scratchings because Battleton, number 16, Second Emergency, looks to be a fantastic bet. We'll be right in there behind them, but on this hot speed, I don't think that's too bad of a thing. 1,400 again, a really nice run into that first turn, so you got no dramas there. Last few starts, past 3 starts, absolutely no luck in running, badly held up, but hit the line really, really well. Looks to have plenty to give, and those ratings rate 2 to 3 lengths below what he was running prior to that. If he returns to that 1,400 metre form from 4 starts ago, bolts in, and it's $12 currently in the market.
So he needs 2 to come out at the moment, Battleton,
needs 2 to
gain
come
a start.
out. Correct, yes. So really keen if Battleton gets a run, that he's a great bet. If he doesn't, the other one that I'll want to be on is Chris Lee's horse with Gibbons on board, Inver Park. Has just had the one run in Australia coming from the UK. It was a really sound effort, ran through the line it's supremely well, and that was over 1,100. All of his best form overseas was out to the 1,400 metre mark. Gets that here, gets a tough draw from 16, but again with that hot pace, I think Gibbo will be fine to find a trail. Hit the line really well, again around about that $10 mark. I think there's some really good progressive types. Well, Inver Park's a progressive type, and then Battleton, just with a bit more luck in running, really difficult to hold out.
I'm completely staying out of this race because it's just a tricky race without me knowing Sydney form too well. There's one I want to ask you about, Liam. Political debate. Just having a look here. Looked as though he's ran really well first up behind Hercules. Complete forget, I'm guessing, the prep before where he ended up having 322 days off after it, but he ran in the Run to the Rose and then the Golden Rose. But then you go back to his original good prep. He's beaten Sharp and Smarter, and then he's ran second in the JJ Atkins. Is he a horse that could certainly improve and maybe one to be watching? He's only second up here, but first up was obviously good enough, and maybe one more run, and he's a horse that might be able to step up.
It's funny. I remember backing this horse in the JJ itself, and obviously got beaten just on the line from Shizabelta. The ratings out of that race are huge, and I have found ever since that it hasn't stacked up. Yep. So it was one of those races that rated unbelievably well, but all of the progressive horses coming out of there didn't quite ever get back to that level. So I take that under advisement a bit. This prep probably, I think, 2 to 3 runs off still. Just because if you watch that last 200, just seemed to take the foot off the gas and didn't have a whole lot left. I'm more preferring the horses that are really running through the line. But got a lot of talent and one that
the ability's there,
keeping
just
an eye
getting
on.
him out of it.
Correct.
Nice, mate. So Battleton's the play if Gaines a start. If not, you're going to side with the Chris Lees import number 6, which is...
Inverpark.
Inverpark.
You don't like anything?
I like that. No, I'm just going to shoulder arms to this one. Couldn't really land on anything in the 9th, mate. We can't bet in them all. Well, we can, but we choose not to.
Play smart.
Hey, before we do a little bit of a summary and get our unit plays, we of course have got to go to Jacko, our resident take on me occupant. What's he got for us this week, Jacko?
Week 2 take on me, and week 1 went about as well as I was expecting. I lost 2,500. Laid B all bay at $6 the market. I think it started about $4.20 firm Betfair. The market gave me the middle finger, as did Shane Nichols, the trainer, or his content staff on Twitter, who liked my post after the race, which I thought was just outstanding content from them. Pure shithousery. Week 2, we're going to punch on here. We're going to lay Moonee Valley, race 5, number 7, Magnaspin, in the 2,500 metre race, fully proving that I have completely lost the plot. Magnaspin won over the 26 days ago on that absolute travelator that was the inside fence. A rails and run day where I probably could have won from the fence. Stepping up to the 2,500 for the first time, up 500 metres in distance, off being completely suited and out of his age group for the first time. All those factors lead me to believe that he's not a $3.20 chance. He's $3.20, the best available price. He's $2.80, $2.90 most. I'm going to put up $1,000 at $3.60 on Betfair on Thursday night for anybody who wants to win a bit more of my cash. I like most of these horses who have had the 2,500 metre platform and at the Valley coming through fast races. There's plenty of horses here that I'd rather back over Magnaspin, and I'm going to lay him.
All right, well, Jacko's confident with Magnaspin. I'm not sure winning or losing, but he's fronting up every week. That's outstanding. And I did see that from Shane Nichols. That's the trainer of the week again. Yeah. Very good work on Twitter. So hop on over if you want to take on Jacko in the 5th at the Valley with Magnaspin. Boys, time to just summarise our bets and get our unit plays for the weekend. We'll start with you, Clance. Where are you spreading your units this weekend?
So we've talked about all these races, but Moonee Valley race 6, number 3, Inhibitions, 1.5 units. Race 7, number 8, Future History, 1.5 units also. Race 9, we've got 2 plays, Deny Knowledge and French Emperor, 1 unit apiece. Heading over to Rosehill, the Ruffy End Cap, race 7, number 7, we're going to have half a unit there. Come home, race 9, number 16 with Battleton. If we gain a start, we're going to have a whopping 3 units there.
Ooh.
If
Double figures
does not
too.
gain a start, we'll just have 1.5 units in the park.
Do you think if there's 2 scratchings today, there's no way it starts $10?
I've got it at 480.
Are you
with
thinking?
everything in the field.
Is the market sort of work that way that sometimes when the horse is emergency, it's actually a little bit of a longer price?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. When there's some value in the emergencies, you really have to pay attention to the market because Sportsbet obviously they take emergency deductions. So they're offering, so for example, that race they're betting 125%, everyone else is 140 plus.
Yeah, okay.
So you got to be very mindful. But when you're actually backing the emergency, it's not too bad because everyone's taking deductions from the horses that come out, right? So you can actually take that and you gain a bit of an advantage there. But yeah, $12. Have some.
The way I'm staking,
I love seeing the different aggressive tones of unit staking. We're just throwing out 0.25s here and there, and old mates come in going, I'm here for a good time, not a long time.
And the one at the end's double figures as well with 3 plonked on it.
Who are we to judge the equine
That's
genius?
true. Exactly. Exactly. I think we won't be talking like this next week after he just demolishes us. Anyway, the way I'm staking Moonee Valley race 6 Inhibitions, 1 unit to win. Then we head across to Omni-Man, 2 units to win. Deny Knowledge, a unit to win and a unit to place. We head across to Sydney. Tom Kitten, 1 unit to win, 1 unit to place. Kadinsky, Abstract, 1 unit to win, 1 unit to place. And let's hope that I at least get something this week.
Yeah, nice race. I'm sure you will. The law of averages suggests that you will land a winner at some point. I'm heading to the Valley, race 6, number 6, Media, 0.7 units to win. Number 7, Right to Party, 0.3 units to win. Race number 7, number 5, Maserati Bay, 0.25 units each way. Race number 8, I'm going with number 7, Acromantula, 1 unit to win. Race 9, number 6, Deny Knowledge, 1 unit to win, and I'll save that stake on St Lawrence as well. Then up to Sydney, I'm going to go race number 7, number 11, Les Vampires, 1 unit to win. And I don't know if I'm changing the rules or not here, but I'm going to Morphettville race 8, See You in Heaven, 2 units to win at $2.10.
I'd say you are
She's
changing
just the
rules.
best sprinter in Adelaide, and if we like winners, then that's one hopefully for us over there. She's just better than them.
You run the show anyway,
yeah,
so you
that's
do what you want.
exactly
Big
right.
units to
yeah.
play with after
So-
last week.
That's
He can throw
yeah,
wherever he
yeah.
likes.
He's juggling them
Spend
up. Good luck this weekend, fellas. Good luck. I know you're going to run a later today. Reece, the Prince of Pakenham, Clance, the Equine Genius. It's been great to have you on the show. As for listeners, viewers, we'll see you next week on Layback with Betfair.
Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.